Go ahead and post the link up here if you need a closer look online. Be on YouTube. There you go. All right. All right. So last class we went over first getting our shapes together, creating different compositions to bring them together, so we can build a Tetris, emulate a Tetris session here. So the first thing we did was we created the master, which I already have here, named it master composition, right? Default settings, of course. And then what we did is we created a square. Right, we went over coloring, so coming up here to the blue fill. All right, we we hit linear, hit OK. Come up here to the color block for fill. All right, we did some adjustments. We made sure our opacity is all the way up, so select that. Make that 100% opaque. All right, and then we chose our colors, which vary from here to there. So I'm going to use a red and a lighter red. Hit OK. And then once I come back down here, I'm going to hit the V key for my selection tool. And then my gradient placement tool here, or handle, will pop up, make it straight up and down, so I can give it something of a highlight here. All right, came down here, name it something appropriate. So outer block. Went ahead and copied and pasted. Control C, Control V. I get a second one. I'm going to rename this one inner block. All right. I forget a step here, but it's never too late. So just for just to feel better about my shapes in general, I went ahead and centered up the pivot point here. Pivot / anchor point. I'll do that for both of them. I hide the top later so I can get the bottom one. Just center that up right there. When I press and hold Control, it will snap to either the center, horizontal, halfway point, vertical, or one of the corners here. Okay, back to my inner block. Selection tool again. Go ahead and make it visible again so I can reshape it. Grab a corner, press and hold Shift so I can constrain proportions while downsizing it. Make it slightly smaller than the outside block so we can have that iconic Tetris look. One of our blocks here. Alright, then come back up here to fill. Either the word or the color block here. Come to radial. Hit OK. Alright, and then again pressing V, make sure I'm in my selection tool. I can use my handle to get a better placement of that radial gradient for the inside. Then I believe we did have outlines on the outside. All right, so let's click on the outside one. Let's add a stroke to it. Black stroke. Mine doesn't show up because it's at 0 point up here. So click and slide that just a little bit. Nothing specific. And give it a little bit of a stroke. And that's how we build our block, right? We don't want to use this block though. We don't know how big this is. and then recreating it could be a pain. So the way we can confine those dimensions is by creating a new composition. Alright, so this composition is going to be my J block, 6 shape here. Alright, and instead of the 1920 by 1080, we're going to trim all of that extra space. Right, we want something that's some number that we can work with. The number I used was 150, so 150 pixels by 150 pixels. Go ahead and uncheck this, so it's not keeping or constraining the proportions of the composition. So I got 150 by 150. Just going to go ahead and change the background color. Something a little lighter, differentiate it from the rest. Hit OK. Okay, now I have a square composition, right, with no shapes. So this is when we do the same thing here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and draw out my block. Go ahead and make a square block here. So click, drag, hold shift. Just go ahead and bring it to the very edges of the composition here. Let's snare this up the best way I can. Alright, going to change this back to linear. At the very top here, you can select either or. Just switch back and forth. Hit OK. Selection tool. Adjust the handle. There we go. Alright. This is my outer block. So come down here and name it. Go ahead, copy, paste. Name this one inner block. Alright, go ahead, take off my stroke. So hit the blue word stroke next to the color block. Go for the box with the red line. Okay. Takes off my stroke. Come up here to fill. Change that to radial. Okay. Gonna make adjustments to handle and then go ahead and downsize it like we did before. Right about here. And again, just for peace of mind, just make sure my anchor points are in the center. Okay, so that's that first block here, right? And if we're doing multiple blocks, instead of doing this each and every time, we can go ahead and save this as like the basic block, the fundamental block, building block, etc., etc. And make a copy of this composition and save it for later. All right. Since I already have this, I'm just making one shape here. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next step. So I know this should be a 150 by 150 block. 150 pixels by 150 pixels. And so my J block, see the opposite of the L block, so the top part's on the other side. I'm going to need 3 blocks at the bottom and then 1 block at the top here. All right, so 3 times 150 is 450. Come back to composition settings. increase the width to 450. Oh, hello? Hey. What's up?
I was just in that class over there when they left. Do you know where they went?
No idea.
Okay.
I think they just went home, man.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah. All right, so 3 times, so I can get 3 blocks on the bottom, precisely 3 blocks. Hit OK. What I can do now is copy paste. Slide my new blocks to the side here. I'm going to hold shift. So it's constrained to the horizontal axis here. Move it all the way over. Like so. Okay, get another copy. Press and hold shift. Move it all the way over. Alright, and the bottom part is done here. So now I just want the top part. So back to composition settings. Alright, so double the height so I have room for my block. There we go. I'll move all these to the bottom. Press and hold shift to constrain movement. Alright, get one more copy. Move this to the top. I'm just going to be mindful of gaps here. Alright. Awesome. And then there's my J shape. Pretty much. So, one step I didn't show before, just to make sure there's no gaps if your stroke is small enough. Mine's is pretty large, so I don't have to worry about it, but just in good practice, I'll come down here, the background color, change the background to something bright and contrasting. Okay, and then that way I can see there's no gaps in between the blocks here. That's how I can get a nice close fit with all the other blocks. All right, any questions? Concerns? All right, so if you don't already, for today's demonstration, let's go ahead and finish off 2 shapes real quick. All right, and if you have already, let's go ahead and implement all the shapes you have into your master layer. Then we'll take a look at snapping in just a moment here. Well, there's a process for that part, but the shapes themselves looking good. Start with square composition. So, consider that. Okay. So, when you go. Leave that. See, it's like one time that side. Alright, start off in a new composition. What do we want more? Alright, let's name that original block. And all your shapes will come from this composition. Copy and paste that one. We name it. Then not that, the compositions. These are layers, these are compositions. Like that. Before we do that, let's go back to composition settings. Now let's go ahead and make it to a perfect square. So I'm shell. Just use 1/5. It's easy. 1/5. Yeah. Square. Okay. Let's build our Tetris block. No, not that one. We don't know how big that one is, right? Let's go ahead and redraw. So, shape tool. Right. So, press and hold and shift. And maintain the dimensions. And hold and shift. And let's make that a little bigger. See what the edge is a little better. Let's zoom in. Draw a square, press the hold shift. Okay. Let's take off. Strip. So you can see. So I'll come back and help those as needed, but I'm going to go ahead and move on to snapping here. Alright guys, so video game is very precise, right? We want blocks to build up on top of each other. We don't want overlapping, we don't want gaps. It just makes it look sloppy, right? So I'm going to go ahead and import, let's see, several of my blocks here. All the blocks. Why not? Is this the master? Yep. This. Alright. And as you can already tell if you played around with it, pressing and holding shift or control doesn't really give you much snapping. Now, pressing and holding control does give you the ability to snap sides together, but as far as putting them together with the composition, we may have a little bit of trouble. So there's an easy way of going about that. Alright, so we'll go ahead and move these out the way real quick. And then let's go back, let's go up here to View. We're going to hit Show Grid. Alright, this is what we'll use to line everything up. Alright. So we turn on Snap to Grid. Alright, it's checking to see if it works. Yeah, works just fine. Alright, and then we want a precise grid. So this is, by default, I think is like 5 by 5 with some sort of subdivisions going on. Alright, so let's go up here to Edit, Preferences, and Grids and Guides. Alright, and that way we can get our precise grid that we want. So at the very top, you can change the color, styles. I'm actually going to use dots here. So it's less overbearing. And then, so I have, my blocks are 150 by 150 pixels each. The thing is some of the shapes will need to line up halfway through. So instead of every 150 pixels, I'm going to put every 75 pixels. And for subdivisions, 0 or 1. I hit OK. It's going to change it up for me. I got small little dots here. Let's see if we can make those stand out a little better. So let's see, the background is gray, white. There you go. Alright, now if everything snaps the way I need it to, then I should be able to place that guy in the corner, bring this guy down. Yep. Oh, careful not to resize anything. There you go. Now I can snap everything together by just moving them into place. Very simple, very easy. Alright. So for our next step, let's go ahead and let's build 5 lines. They don't need to be solid, but just 5 lines of shapes here. And then we'll move on into animation. So this looks like I need to increase my composition size. So I'm also just going to raise the top here. Right? We're going to go ahead and leave that 1080 ratio. I'm just going to add space up top here because the game is pretty vertical, right? So composition settings here, I get rid of lock aspect, and let's say we triple it. So 3 times 8, so 3,240. So bring this to the bottom, and then start building. Now some pieces you may want to rotate. The way we go about doing that is we can come underneath our specific pre-comp here, transformation, rotation, and just mind your 90 degrees, right? So 90, 180, 270, and then 360. So a shortcut for rotation is the R key. Pull up rotation and nothing else for you. Alright, and be sure to save early and save often.
Let's do two rows, those two sheets. Let's go on. Add more sheets. Doesn't have to be solid. Yeah, sure. We're building shape, remember? How'd you set that? You just set the shape. Let's go back to some Tetris. Okay.
Okay. Let's try it again. Let's select that composition. Control C, Control V. Alright, cool. So we need one of the shapes. L. Anyway, still gotta be both right. L block. Alright, so L block. On the bottom, on the top. Alright? So we know that square is 150, 150. Alright, so let's go ahead and increase the size of the sides. We get two more blocks in there. So composition settings. Let's select the L block. Three times. Fill in an extra space. Two blocks. Mm-hmm. I don't know. So Control Z, Control V. Control V. And you click off. Right. Just click off. So let's hit Control Z, Control V. Don't click off, right? Now let's just move that new set onto the side. I'll hold the shift. Shift if we did. Same thing on the other side. Control Z. Control Z. No, it's right there. Control Z. Alright, let's just move it to the side. Let's deselect. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So, click first, and then shift. Shift click is something else. So click first, move it, and then shift. There it is. You can use your arrow keys too. It's just a none. So control Z, close. Again, let's need space up top. We're talking about no, you just need one block extra up top. So, how much is that?
300.
Right. Keep in mind, rotations down here. Back rotations. Alright, cool. So we've all done the bouncing ball project. So we'll wear keyframes now. Alright. So we should be able to animate these just fine. So let's go ahead and let's animate 5 shapes falling into place. Starting at the center, like in the video game. Starting in the center, falling to the side, and in place. Now keep in mind, they're already at their final spot. Right, so we're going to reverse animate. We're going to start the back end here, and then animate each one into place. Now let's go about figuring this out. You run into a special problem that requires holding keyframes. I want y'all to figure that out. What happened to 300? We have to move the other ones down. So I don't have all this in. So let's go. Go ahead and move. No, let's just take care of that empty space first. Let's get rid of the empty space first. We don't know what the bottom is going to be at. No. Shift Z. Or Control Shift Z. You good? Control C.
Yeah, control shift.
Alright, and let's go ahead and let's get rid of the Try one more time. This is Control Z. Control Z again. Just grab it all. Arrow keys to motion and close to select them all. Resize. Keep everything 1 through 4 and 50, right? So I'll select all the shapes. Use the arrow keys. This order is not all depending on how far you are. That's shape 1. Go ahead and create shape 2. Again, we'll duplicate the original block and we increase the composition size and close the new shape. Two. So the other ones later. Let's go ahead and let's get that master composition together. Let's bring in 2 of them. Let's build 2 levels. So let's start on the animation part.
So what's the size for the composition now?
Okay, so it's 3 times as high now,
Okay,
so
3 times.
3,002 something. so snap it. Let's get back over to snap it. So, let's go ahead and turn on the grid. Let's go to view. Show grid. Go back up to view. Snap. Inside the group. Now, how big are the blocks? Not all? Oh, you're in the new ones? Okay, like, yeah, the individual blocks are 150. Okay, awesome. So let's make it a lot easier. So let's go up to edit. This is composition. So let's go back to the master. Preferences. Let's go ahead and change the grid line every to 75. Subdivisions. Let's say okay. Awesome. Now should be able to snap into place. Let's try that. So then 2 levels, and then let's animate 5 shapes falling into place. Before class. Mary, already done? Are they animated?
No, they're, I'm waiting. I must catch up to that.
Oh. Oh, okay. So yeah, let's animate 5 of them into place, starting from the center.
Okay.
Two graphics in it. Then go back from the original block. So go ahead and delete the T block. And then let's create that T shape from the original block. So the original block composition.
Yeah, because we're already in place, right? So we're not reversing. Same thing. So we're already in place, so we start to that. And then we're in place. All right. So for next class, let's go ahead and let's have. If you don't have your shapes already, make sure you have your shapes by next class, all 5 or at least 5. And then let's have, like up here, 5 lines stacked together. And then let's go ahead and have 10 shapes animating into place. Nothing fancy, just point A, point B in sequential succession, I guess you'll call it. All right, so one falling after another. So keep in mind we do need to animate at the back, at the end of the timeline, and work our way to the beginning. All right, and we'll turn these in for grade. There'll be a posting up for a progress report here. All right, so real quick. All right, so we don't have enough time for a quiz today, but we'll go over one next class, over the basics. So all the information you'll need is in the pre-roll in lesson 1 of your book. It'll be a 10-question quiz. All right, be mindful of your hotkeys. Let's see. Just make sure we're not missing anything. All right, anybody have questions about the duration time code? So whenever we go to composition settings, it's down here. All right, we're aware of what each spot is. We have our frames, we have our seconds, we have our minutes, and then hours. All right, so let's keep that in mind. All right, does everybody know the difference between a project file and a composition? All right. If you do not, raise your hand.
Wait. Say that one minute.
Project file and composition. So these are compositions, right? Composition settings for each one of these. And whenever you save your project, you're making a project file. Okay? It's in the book in detail, but keep that in mind. Let's see, what else here? Keep in mind the naming convention. Right? Last name underscore nature of the project, camel text underscore V for version, and then at least 2 digits for your version number. All right, we all know what a keyframe is. All right, we know our transform nodes, right? Position, rotation, scale, and opacity. Keep that in mind. Selection tool, we're aware of that. Okay, and then for snapping, we've discreetly went over several ways of snapping, right? So we have the snap to grid, where we come up here to view, right? We can snap our transformations or constrain our transformations by clicking, pressing and holding shift to move it along one axis or the other. All right, and also if we have snapping on at the very top here, we can also snap our bounding box to another. click and hold near to one of these. It highlights one of the bounding box squares here. You can snap that highlighted square to the side of another bounding box. And again, it goes over in more detail in the book here. So pre-roll, lesson 1, review that. And then, let's see, what else? Got that, timeline. Right. Anybody here not aware of the project resource panel? All right, it's off to the side here. It's where we hold all your compositions, your footage, anything imported, it comes over here. Right. Okay, cool. Cool. All right, any questions? No? Awesome. All right. No? So I'll see you guys Wednesday.
All right.
And again, I'm looking for 5 lines,
I'll see you guys
5
Wednesday.
shapes,
All right.
and again,
Not